on to the public open session. Is there anybody online? As there's nobody? No, nope. Lovely. Do we need to worry about that?
It's staying auto panel off.
Is there a remote? Oh, that's fine. As long as you're okay with the recording, that's fine. Lovely. Any members' questions, please, gentlemen? Excellent. Thank you. And so we move over to minutes and recommendations of meetings. So we are going to look at the minutes starting on page 7. We go through for accuracy first. So page 7, page 8, and page 9. No. And then if I do accuracy for the other ones as well, if that's okay. So page 10 and page 11. No. And then I'll go back and do matters arising again then, please. So page 7, page 8, page 9, and for the other minutes, page 10 or page 11. Excellent. Thank you very much. So then we move on to items 8A, so the home working and flexible working policy. Did you want to preamble? Or are we happy? You're all right, no problem. So we've got an older policy. Well, it's not very old actually. It was kindly put together for us by officers earlier on this year, but following a conversation we had last time to review and make it a bit more all-encompassing. So any comments? So the ask is for us to consider replacing the remote working policy from February 26 with the more updated home working and flexible working policy dated August 26. Any comments, queries? How do members feel? Councillor Strawn?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so looking at the new proposed one rather than the historical one.
Yeah.
I think there's some difficulties with home working in terms of a public realm. I don't think will be able to work from home in practical terms, but the idea of permanent home working as referred to on page 21 is something that I'm totally and utterly against. I think the public would be against. I think it's something that should be removed totally from there, as I think that I just think it's just totally unacceptable. I don't think it's good for working relationships either. I think it's just something that is totally wrong. Regular home working does cause me concern. There are times where it makes sense that it may be appropriate for office staff to be doing something where if they can work properly from home without having the distractions of other people around. I think that can sometimes be of great benefit. But in general principles, I think that we need to make sure that staff are in the office as far as possible. Yes, there may be exceptions to the rule. There may be occasions where it's for circumstances such as, say, an electrician coming or something such as that, it may make sense to do it from a practical and goodwill point of view. But as a general rule, I think our staff should be in the office. They're front facing largely, and the members of the public will, I think, will expect it. But that's my particular thought on this. But I think I'd like to hear other councillors' comments. I've got other comments elsewhere, but that I think is the first part.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Any other comments? Yes.
I'm of a similar view, but I think what I would say though is that I think it does make sense for it to be included in the policy so that we can almost. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to word this, but sort of in a way, it's not a desired position. But I appreciate that there may be certain circumstances where it becomes either necessary or practical for a permanent home working arrangement to be made. But I do agree with Councillor Strawn that really that our position should be, for the most part, that it's not something we would be encouraging. And then there needs to be really exceptional circumstances for it to be permanent home working. Are you going to move on to regular home working separately, or should we deal with that at the same time? I'll deal with the regular home work. Again, similar to point of view really around regular home work. And I think, again, there can be some practical benefits for regular home working. But again, it really should be, I think the policy specifies it needs to be dealt with and approved by the clerk and the line manager anyway. So it's not a case of you can work regularly at home without sort of oversight from the line manager. So I'm happy with that. I think the main really concern is about the permanent side of it. I think it does specify in here that even if there are home working arrangements, it needs to be done from your work needs to be done from your own home address, unless particular approval is being given by your line manager and the clerk to say work from an outside location, but it has to be within the country, again, without unless there are exceptions. So again, I think that generally speaking, I'm not against the policy. Actually, I think that the wording of the policy is very good, but I think just the permanent home working should be at very least a major exception to the norm, which I think it would be anyway.
Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, but when you're setting a policy, you're setting things that may or may not happen, might never happen. It's nice to have a policy to take account of it, because we can't. The one thing we're doing here 5 years ago, we would have been saying, oh, well, there's no chance of anybody working at home, is there? And now it's quite a regular thing in industry. I mean, I did it. I never anticipated in my working life ever doing it. So having a policy is not a problem. It's just using it. And I think the permanent home working, it's mitigated by permanent home working may require contractual change and formal approval. I mean, that says there's a barrier and it's unlikely to be used, but if for some reason you need it, you might need it. So that's all. When you're setting a policy, that's what you're trying to do, and you're trying to guess into the future and say, this is what we're trying to do. This is the scope of doing that, and this is the only occasion where it would happen. So I think it's fine. It's just unlikely to be used in this council. Regular home working, again, same thing. You don't anticipate it, but it might have to happen for whatever reason. I'm not against the policy at all.
Thank you. If I can just observe from the chair, the way that I interpreted this was this bit on page 21, where we're particularly focusing right now. Ooh. Are you okay? We don't need to worry. The page 21 is a definition, is my understanding, but I'll let our HR manager confirm. And then later on in the policy, it does set out the reasons are that you would or you may not be able to, Councillor Thomas's point, to be able to support. And I would worry about us prejudging situations that we have no idea that might arise, to your point again, Councillor Thomas. So that was my interpretation of the beginning of the policy on page 21 being the definitions, and then the rest of the policy being this is how we would bring it to life. Kind of hand over. Would that be the right understanding?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Does that help, Councillor Strawn, to reassure that the policy is not saying that that is something we're definitely doing? We would take every situation on merit as guided by the law.
I think it's important that I'm very unhappy with the idea of permanent home working, but that would require contractual changes and formal approval as set out. So I think as a policy, we could probably leave it in, but I think that as a principle, I would be very much against it. I can't think of any circumstances where I'd be happy with it actually occurring, shall we say.
No, I understand completely. Yeah, Councillor.
I think the point here is if that is the circumstance, and because there are four of us here, that we are a representative of the council. When ultimately there may be four of us have one view. It may be that there's no problem, but the challenge with having any reference to home working being allowed as a permanent home working being allowed as part of a policy that you're then put in a position where the clerk and the line manager have to make a decision,
Consider it, yeah.
as opposed to if the council has an agreed policy that permanent home working is not acceptable under any circumstances, then that makes it quite clear. And I'm not suggesting that is our position, should be our position, but at the moment there is scope for someone to challenge where we might have as a council have a policy that actually we don't support.
Do we
permanent home
want to
working.
discuss whether or not that is something that we want to
I think
consider and adopt, to take that stance potentially? Councillor Strawn?
I think the important thing is that there's only 4 members of the council here this evening, just over half the committee. And this is something that has got to go to council, in my view, as a whole. It may be a recommendation that this policy be adopted, but I don't think there's any way that we should, as a committee, be making something as radical as this and committing the rest of the council to it.
So what I'm hearing is that everything else in the policy, everybody feels comfortable with. It's that particular, no, we're not. Okay, go on, Councillor Strawn.
No, I think we're dealing with at the moment. I
Just
think
with
the whole
this point.
policy's got to go to council. But with regard to the points we've been discussing about ad
Permanent
hoc
working.
or permanent or regular,
Yeah.
I think it's been explained, and I think it's minuted as to how we came. The discussion went about as to what it means. In other words, it's a possibility, but nothing is committed. I think it's important.
Is there anything else throughout the policy that you think it would be good? So I've made a note here that we should consider inviting the whole council to have an opinion potentially on that particular part of the policy. But is there anything else in the policy that would be helpful to discuss tonight?
Yes, there's reference to consultation
What
on page
are you on,
22.
please? Sorry?
Page 22 and 23.
Yeah.
And it says that the council will meet with the employee before making a decision. Now, I do not envisage that an employee is going to come before 15 members of the council for the consultation.
Where are you looking? Sorry,
page
Councillor Strawn.
22.
Oh, at the bottom, under the title consultation. So
Cons-
should that be the town clerk and HR manager or whoever, I can't remember now who we said that would have a look at each request?
I think that would probably be the appropriate situation. And I think that possibly just on that, if it was a request for, say, permanent home working, that decision should be made by the council. But the initial stages obviously, I think, should be with officers.
Okay, thank you.
think
Is
that-
everybody else in agreement with that?
Yeah, and I think that applies to the wording. The word the council applies right the way through. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's the principle of that rather. I think most people would understand that we're not talking about inviting a member of the team to come into council to put their case. So no, that's not what the intention of the policy is. So, and I'm hoping we're not coming across as pedantic, but you don't want to get yourself in a position where the policy isn't robust enough. You're then, well, I want to have a meeting with the council as opposed to.
So far I've got 2 points on the policy. So number 1 about permanent home working, that we'd like the council to consider this at a main council meeting. And number 2, to ask our HR manager if you wouldn't mind going through and just confirming what should be the council versus what should be town clerk or relevant people. Does that sound right so far?
Yep.
Yes.
A further point on page 24, a third of the way down, just before 8 home working requirements, appeals. Is the appeal will be considered by a manager who was not involved in the original decision, wherever reasonably practical. Is that adequate in terms of definition or concerns? Because if you've got a senior employee dealing with it, is their manager? There might maybe only one manager above them, so to speak. And again, it could go even higher than that, where the only people above the employee is the council. So is that quite? I think that needs a little bit of further consideration, please.
That is a good point. I'm really sorry, Helen. I'm desperately trying to find the exact wording on here, but because I'm under the microscope right now, I can't find it. Who is the person that we said in here? Because I think we changed, didn't we, in our conversations last time, that it would go to the town clerk, not Was it the town clerk and yourself? And the line manager, I think it was, wasn't it? I'm just thinking who the next level is.
Yeah, sorry.
It's because we're having to look for it right here, right now. It's not as easy to find as when you read it calmly. Yeah, no, but yeah, the appeal will be considered by a manager who was not involved in the original decision, wherever reasonably practicable. But you're talking about seniority, is that correct?
Well, I'm looking at the practicalities as who the manager would be. At the moment, it just says a manager, and that could go at varying to different levels. And certainly when you're looking at the ad hoc arrangements where there's a particular a family emergency or so, I can understand that being dealt with at that level. But some of the bigger decisions, such as we were talking about, regular or permanent, I think that goes a little bit above, with great respect, than the average manager.
Okay.
I found the parts middle of page 23 that all requests final approval.
Ah, yeah, I see it. Thank you. I knew it was
Yeah,
in
so-
there.
yeah.
I just couldn't find it. So the employee's line manager with final approved by the town clerk. So that does make it harder then if the town clerk with final approval, but then if there's an appeal against the decision made by the line manager and town clerk, to have another manager, I can see your point might be a bit complex. So maybe we need to give that a bit more
Okay, yeah.
thought. Any preference as to how that should look, or are you happy for it to be taken away to be looked at and presented back?
I think, it's a challenge because you don't want flexible working appeals to end up coming to the appeals committee of the council, because that's just really not where you want to go. So I think it needs to be dealt with in a way that, for the most part, the decisions is with the line manager and the clerk. And you can't say there's no rights to appeal, because there is. But where do you go if the clerk, as the most senior officer of the council, you've only got the appeals committee above that in terms of how, so it needs a little bit of thought there to make sure. And can I just be clear that the appeal process, formal flexible working arrangements, so this includes all of it. So it's not just and it's not relating to ad hoc. So it's specifically the formal, not contractual, but I want to work from home Monday and Friday. I mean, being offered that would be classed as being a formal flexible working request, for example. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So your appeals is a challenge there.
So I've got 4 points. Any other points, please? Otherwise, I'll summarise. Oh, no, please don't be afraid. I'm quite happy. Okay, so to summarise, I've got on page 21 for us to ask the full council meeting to consider our position on permanent home working, just to be absolutely clear. Then on page 22, just as that's just indicative, I think, on page 22, for us to rework and replace the word council appropriately throughout the document. Then on page 23, can we reconsider who the consultations and appeals would be, which actually is exactly the same point on the following page. So there's 3. They're just aligned. Does that sound correct to everyone?
Yep.
I was just thinking that the whole policy should go to council, not.
Yes, it will. But if we tidy up, if we're able to tidy up the council town clerk and review the bit we just spoke about in terms of who it is, then it's only one main conversation.
No, with all those 3 points, if they can be resolved, and then.
Yeah. Amazing. Good. So are we happy? Do we need to, is that an official, I can't propose that from the chair, can I? Or, well, I propose that from the chair.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour? Lovely. Thank you. Agreed. Thank you very much.
Just say one thing.
Please.
I'd like to thank Helen for putting this together, and whoever else was involved, if it was you, because that looks like it to me a difficult document. I've done a few documents, and that looks like a difficult one to do. And to get all the scope right and everything is just. I know it's hard, and we're only talking about fine points here, really. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, item 9, there are no items for information. So we'll go again to the public open session. There's nobody in the room. I'll give you 2 secs to do a little zhuzh? No, we're all good. Okay, thank you. So we move on to exempt. Bear with while I do the reading. Members of the Personnel Committee are asked to enter an exempt session due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. This will include information relating to confidential personnel matters such as staffing, pay, grievance, disciplinary or welfare issues, which may involve personal data and commercially sensitive information. Hate hearing myself, it's horrible. If members resolve to proceed into the exempt session, members of the public and press will be excluded from the meeting under section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, and the live streaming of the meeting will be terminated. Any officers not required for the discussion of exempt personnel matters will be asked to withdraw, and our exempt items for discussions are HR updates. Can I move that we move to exempt?
Move it. Yep.